Okay, for this 1920s seminar, it is the topic of motion pictures, one of my favorite parts of history. In the 1920s, films, especially in the early 20s, were silent films. There was no sound. What you had was you had the characters on the screen. Sometimes you would have captions on the bottom. And if you were in a nicer theater, you would possibly have a person up front reading a script of what the characters were saying. Maybe have a person off to the side playing a piano to accompany the movie. But they were silent films. Well, in the 1920s, we get the first movie with sound. It's The Jazz Singer, or as they called it, a talkie, because you could hear the people talking. So, The Jazz Singer, first movie with sound. Another famous person from the 1920s, Charlie Chaplin. Probably the greatest, most famous actor of the 1920s. He did a lot of comedies. He also did some pieces that went along with the kind of a narrative of the era. He did a famous one called The Dictator. It kind of was spoofing Hitler a little bit. I'm going to show you a little bit of his eating machine video here, though. You can see Charlie Chaplin here is kind of making fun or light of the mass production and mechanization of the workplace. I'm going to pause it there. It is going to go even further in depth, and he ends up, it turns into a comedy. So it's some pretty fun stuff. If you want to watch the video, it's on the link there. And another famous video of the era. Oh, we're going to have to skip this commercial first. Well, the animation died here. But you have the link, you can see it. This is what was called Steamboat Willie, which was actually one of the first cartoons Walt Disney ever made. And this character will end up turning into Mickey Mouse. So that also comes to us from the 1920s. Another thing with the movies is a lot of times before they showed the actual movie, they would have a newsreel, which would show the news not only around America but around the world. And you had that, you had the newspaper, and then you also had the radio. Those are the three main ways that Americans at this time would get their news. So, the movies of the 1920s. And I want to keep going on here because this is the part that I think is really interesting. The places you would watch movies were called movie palaces. This is the outside of the movie theater, the Roxy, and this was in Detroit. This movie theater held 5,300 people. Let me scroll down, you can see the inside. Oh, I'm sorry, this is, the Roxy is in New York City, not Detroit. the Fox is in Detroit. This is the inside of the Fox Theater. Here's other movie houses. This one's in San Francisco. Here's some other ones. I mean, just look at the opulence of these places. I mean, that's why they're called movie palaces. So here's the Fox Theater. This one's in Detroit. So you got the front entryway. This is you're going through the lobby. You're gonna go up the stairs into the theater. I mean, just look, gilded everything, just opulent. And then this is the inside of the theater. You're up on the stage, and then you have the screen behind you. But I mean, it's just huge. Look at the chandeliers in the ceiling, and the pillars and everything. So I hope you can understand why they were called movie palaces and not just movie theaters. So the 1920s, kind of a great era of movies in America.